Have you ever had such a strong emotional reaction that you barely understood what you were feeling? Big emotions can feel like you've lost control of yourself, physically. Your heart's pounding, maybe your face turns red, or the waterworks come whether you like it or not. As unpleasant as this can be, these are normal and sometimes necessary moments we experience when we're having strong feelings. So what do you do with them? Well, today I'm going to give you some practical ideas. Welcome to the Metaphor of Gender. I'm Sasha, a therapist, and this channel is for curious people who prefer deep thinking over dogma. We explore identity, meaning, and how to live life well. If you've watched some of my earlier videos, the ones about abstract concepts like metaphor and identity, you might have thought, okay, I don't really get all this subjective stuff, and what do I actually do with any of this? Some of you even told me that you're on the autism spectrum and need something a little more tangible. Well, today we're getting very practical, and we're focusing on something fundamental, universal, and deeply personal: your emotions. Because no matter what you're dealing with, gender dysphoria, anxiety, past trauma, or just the stress of being human, learning how to work with your emotions can only help you. Emotional intelligence isn't about reducing or stopping your feelings. It's about getting to know yourself better. And incidentally, it just might make your emotions a little bit easier to live with. Now, at its most basic level, gender dysphoria, like any other kind of difficult experience, can be boiled down to a series of unpleasant thoughts and emotions. On this channel, we've looked at details about the different drivers, conflicts, and specific emotional experiences behind different sorts of gender dysphoria. But I want to give you a practical exercise that you can do to better understand your own thoughts and emotions. So, try this naming activity. I want you to try describing your experience of dysphoria, but the experiment is to get really creative and granular with the terms you use and which terms you don't use. So try avoiding familiar terms that are your go-to labels and categories. For example, can you describe your experience without using the terms social dysphoria, trans, perception, or passing? Now, this will likely be pretty challenging, but this is actually a really helpful activity to understand some of the deeper layers of your experience. If you do this activity, you might come to discover that your dysphoria maybe is also about embarrassment or feeling too exposed or being misunderstood somehow. Now, getting specific like this doesn't make the pain of dysphoria go away, but it gives you clearer information about what you're actually experiencing and feeling. That's emotional self-awareness, recognizing what's happening inside of you, precisely and honestly. Now, in order to accurately name what's happening inside of you, it helps to know what you are looking for in the first place. Psychotherapist Hilary Jacobs Hendel, in her book, It's Not Always Depression, describes 7 core emotions that every human being experiences. These are anger, sadness, fear, joy, excitement, disgust, and sexual excitement. Hendel's book breaks down the science of emotions, why we have them, and what they do for us. Now, these 7 core emotions are biologically built into us to help us respond to our situation, adapt, and stay alive. They're biological survival mechanisms. But sometimes we're discouraged from expressing our emotions. Maybe the timing of when we get overwhelmed and emotional doesn't suit those around us. Have you ever been told that your emotions are too much or you're just too sensitive? Sometimes we're even discouraged from expressing positive emotions. Don't brag, honey, you're going to make your brother feel bad. So not only do we sometimes learn to temper the outward expression of our emotions, but we might even avoid feeling them privately at all and shut down our own emotions on a deep and visceral level. So I want to make a little plea for how valuable our emotions actually are. Did you know that fear helps us to stay safe when we encounter dangerous situations? Anger shows up if we feel we've been treated badly or need to defend ourselves. Sadness plays an important role when we realize something we thought was possible just isn't. It helps us to grieve and relinquish control when we need to accept something hard. Disgust can warn us about potential harm, creating a powerful desire to get away from something that might be toxic, literally or figuratively. And joy and sexual excitement help us connect with people or things that we're drawn to and can promote growth and new possibilities in our lives. So when we block or distort these natural emotions, they don't just disappear. They transform, and they can show up as anxiety, shame, and guilt, or even as mental health issues. So the next time you feel vaguely bad, pause and ask, which of these 7 emotions might be underneath this feeling? I actually recommend that you have these 7 core emotions handy when you do the naming activity we talked about earlier. Because once you can name the true emotions, it becomes much easier to work with them. You'll move from a vague sense of something's wrong or your easy go-to word like social dysphoria to a more accurate and complex understanding of what you're actually feeling and maybe what you might need in the moment. And once you start identifying what's happening inside of you, the next step is learning how to stay with those feelings, especially when they're big and intense. Maybe sadness, fear, or memories that are filled with disgust are really awful to think about. But here's something I want you to remember. Big emotions can't actually hurt you. They can make your heart race, they can make you cry, they can make you want to run away or curl up in a ball and hide, but they can't harm you. And while sometimes our emotions may give us signals that aren't quite accurate or proportional to a situation, the way to properly understand and manage them isn't to just block them. When we're experiencing our emotions in a healthy way, we don't have to listen to what they're telling us, but we do have to feel them. So again, the goal isn't to completely avoid your emotions. And in fact, trying to stop emotions often makes them much worse. The real trick is learning how to ride them out like a surfer on an ocean wave. Because if a surfer panics and fights against the wave, she'll wipe out. But if she stays balanced on her board and goes with it and rides it out, the wave will always crest and pass. That's the same with every emotion. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you can learn to accept it and stick with it and feel it all the way through, you'll notice that emotions rise and fall naturally. This is also how you build trust in yourself and your capacity by proving that you can handle what you're feeling even when it's hard. But there's something we all struggle with that can get in the way of building this capacity. That's avoidance bias. In psychology, avoidance bias means our natural tendency to push away anything that feels threatening, uncomfortable, or emotionally painful. Some types of therapists call this defenses, and it's pretty automatic. Your brain and your psyche trying to protect you from distress. Now, in the short term, it kind of works. You feel relief for a little while, but in the long term, avoidance and defenses can keep you stuck because when you don't face what's painful, you also block yourself from finding real solutions. That's why emotional self-awareness matters so much. It's not about diving into the pain recklessly. It's about learning to approach our emotions willingly and with some curiosity. Now, before you approach something very difficult, a painful memory, a confusing feeling, or an old wound from the past, it helps to have some tools that keep you present and connected to yourself. Now, when first learning the tools that I'm about to share, it's best to practice them when you're calm and not in the middle of an emotional storm. The more you can practice using these during peaceful moments, the more easily your body will be able to access these strategies when strong emotions do hit. So to return to our wave metaphor, I just want to clarify context here. These grounding tools that I'm going to share are what you would use if you've been pulled under the water. In this example, maybe you've gone blank or numb, or you feel like you're floating above your body, or you're stuck in a really painful memory or flashback. These are moments when you actually need to reorient and come up to the surface again. So here are a few grounding practices that can help you to do that safely. Number 1, box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold, exhale for 4 counts, and then hold again for 4. You can repeat this a few times until you notice your body has softened. Number 2, here are some grounding exercises. Name 5 things that you see around you. Name 4 things you can touch. 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Number 3, sometimes just doing some simple movement, like stretching your shoulders, unclenching your jaw, or shaking out your hands will help you get back into your body. And number 4, work in small doses. Take small doses of hard topics. Touch the pain, take a break, and then repeat. Even simple things like drinking some water, stepping outside, or washing your face can help you come back to your body if you get overwhelmed. Now, being able to help yourself in those overwhelming moments also really builds confidence. Each time you learn how to ride out an emotional wave instead of fighting it or being completely overwhelmed by it, you strengthen your resilience and expand your capacity to handle the next one, because emotions are inevitable and more will come again. In my next full video, we're going to zoom out and look at the thoughts themselves. Being able to see your thinking from a bird's eye view and learning how to think about thinking helps you to recognize patterns, gain insight, and make clearer choices. So this week, notice what emotional waves come your way. What emotions are you avoiding? And what small practice might help you stay with things just a few moments longer? All right, that's it for today. Keeping 1 foot in reality and 1 in possibility. I'll see you next time. And if you found this video interesting, watch this one next. This information is meant for educational purposes only and not as a substitute for mental health services.